Hey, am I on camera, son?
You're on.
All right, this is another senior moment. And for this senior moment here in the Arizona desert, we get requests all the time when somebody buys a blank base. You guys know what these bases are that put handles on these palm routers for carving. And sometimes when they get the blank base that don't have the holes in it, they want to know how to line it up so that the holes are right. So I just made this little...
Okay, so I'm going to ask questions.
Yeah, go ahead, son.
So why would they buy a blank base?
Well, if you've got a router that we don't make the base for, like our, we've got this, say you have the DWP 611, we make the base it fits at. But if you've got,
let's say a Milwaukee.
Yeah, say you got a Milwaukee or maybe a Dremel. I haven't tried this for a Dremel. You may want to put this on a Dremel. Just if you've got a router that we don't make the base for, then you want to buy the blank so that you can drill it to fit your own base.
Gotcha.
That's what this is for.
Okay.
And this is just a center alignment jig that I made up. And I'll show you how it works. And I'll give you a quick idea. Can you zoom in on this, son?
Yeah, I'm going to move over a little bit.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit.
Okay.
And now, let's assume that this is a router that you want to put this base on. So you want to find some way to make sure that this is centered. So what I did is I made this up. This drops in there. And so that way, since this is down in the collet, and this fits a hole, the hole's always the same, you know that's centered. So what will happen is when you get the blank base, like this blank base, you get it, and when you get it, it'll have the hole, it'll have the handles on it.
So it'll look just like it is in your hand.
Just like it is in my hand. It'll have the handles on it, and it'll have the paper on the back. So all you have to do is peel the paper off, then put this on. Say this is the front of your router, where this opening is. This is where you'll be looking. And I generally put this at the back, where it says make a wood sign. I generally put that at the back. So what you'll do is you set that on just like that. You put this in, and you press down on it, and you just kind of have to look at it and eyeball it and make sure it's where you want it. Then you get a trusty Sharpie pen, and you know which holes that you took the screws out of. You took the base off of this. You know which holes you took the screws out of. So just hold down on that snug, then you get right over the hole, and you make a little mark. And I made this so that you can just kind of put your thumb on it, so that as you're working with it, I could have made it where I tighten it up, but I made it so that you can just hold your thumb on there, make those marks. And so now if everything is right, I'm going to take that off. That comes out. And now can you see those marks, son?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
They show up good.
All right. So then after you do that, those marks are exactly where the screws are going to go. And then I set this block up on my drill press. And I've got what's called a center drill. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
You zoom? Got it. You got that?
Yep.
Okay, this is a center drill. Now, if you don't happen to have a center drill, then you could just use a little 1/8 inch drill.
As a pilot hole kind of thing.
Just to drill, all we're doing now is just drilling the pilot hole. But with a center drill, it will drill on center. It's a machinist tool, but it will drill on center, and it'll. And I don't know if any of you know this, but on a drill press, you've got a chuck with 3 holes in it. A lot of people that don't know it will just tighten up once. But in order to get this truly centered, you need to snug up all 3 of these. That's why it's got 3 of them. The inner workings of that chuck, you need to tighten up all 3 of those. And just snug them up. They don't have to be real tight. So then, are you with me on this one? I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. And you come down and just barely touch it to begin with. And once you do that, you know you're in the right spot. Then you just touch it a couple of times. Have to be a little careful on this. There's no big mystery to it. Nice thing about working with the plastic like this is you can see when you first touch that, you can see exactly where it's going to drill. It just, if you're off just a little bit, just barely touch it, you can always move it and adjust it if you need to. So that's the 4 holes that are started with this center drill.
Okay.
Now to drill the holes on through, which will be like this. I use this size drill. It's actually slightly under a 1/4 inch, but if you want to use a 1/4 inch drill, it'd be fine. I love doing this stuff. So now what you're going to do is you're going to have to hold it a little bit tighter on this one. Come down and barely touch it. You're going to have to hold it a little tighter as you go through it. And by holding it tighter, that just means holding a little pressure on it. One thing I should be wearing glasses. I just forgot to bring them in, so I'm not wearing them. There's nothing too risky about this, but all things being equal, if I had it to start over again, I would have my safety glasses on. I drilled thousands and thousands of pieces of this plastic, and I've never had a piece fly in my eye, but the fact is I could have. Now, this is just a piece of scrap that I cut a base out of, and I'm going to drill a hole in there. I haven't center drilled it, but I don't need to. I'll just drill a hole in it. I'll show you why. Okay, now we get down. Now here's the tool You have a picture of this tool?
Move it toward you just a little bit, and no, right there. Use that block as a background.
Oh, okay.
That kind of shows it a little bit better. There we go.
See,
Yeah.
this is just a little. This is called. It's got a name like a timberline, and it's got a little carbide insert on both sides, and it's flat. It's got a 1/4-inch pilot drill, so that when I'm drilling this, well, this is actually the hole for the handle, but you're going to drill basically the same hole for the screws. So what I do is I have this set up so I'll take the drill out. Now I set this in there a little bit loose, and I'll show you why in a minute. I can set this up on there, and I'll have to loosen that adjustment. Get that down somewhere close to that.
So you basically just set the depth on that.
Yeah, I'll set the depth on the depth setting on the drill press, so that I'll come in, since I had this already set. Make sure. And most of you, if you have a drill press, you know how to set the depth on it. So bring that around, tighten it up. That's as deep as it's going to go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll show you one thing while I'm thinking about it. Can you get down on this
Yep.
on this piece here, son?
I'm there.
Okay. Now this is the depth gauge that I'm going to set it at. So I set that down on that shoulder. Now can you see that?
Yes.
It's about 118 thousandths. I usually set this for between 110 and 120 thousandths. If it went to 1/8 of an inch, 125, it wouldn't hurt anything, but the more you take out, the more that it'll be a little bit fragile. But somewhere around 1/8 of an inch, 110 to 125 thousandths. And so when I turn this on, I go back down into that hole. Now, can you see that?
Hang on. Yeah.
Now let's see what the setting is on that. See there, we're at about 117 thousandths, which is just about where I want it.
Okay.
So, set our piece of scrap aside so that we know. Now I know that I want to go back into that same spot. So if it was off a little bit, it would still be okay. Now we know the screws are going to go in from this side. It's going to go on like this. And the screws are going to go in from this side, just like they came off. So when you're doing this, you have to hold it fairly snug. It'll try to grab on you a little bit, but there's nothing difficult about it. Try to turn it so that you get it about the same spot where that hole is. If you don't, it doesn't matter. It's gonna drill into the wood anyway. Now, if I were drilling just a flat piece, I would have this part of the base of the drill press. I would have that up so I'd be drilling solid. But since this has the handles on it, this is why I'm drilling it this way. And when you get it, when you buy a blank, it has the handles on it already. And so you don't want to have to take the handles off to drill it. So if you just use a piece of wood like this, it can be just a piece of scrap too before. Any kind of a scrap piece of wood will do. So there you have it. Now, and where's my jig?
Right there.
Oh, there it is. Right there in front of me. Okay, now you put that back on there. Drop this back in there. And that's centered. And I'm going to turn this so you can see the holes. Now, can you see where those holes are all lined up?
Yeah. Just like it's supposed to be.
So that's really all there is to using this centering jig. And the nice thing about it is when you get ready to mark those holes, if you're off like this, all you got to do is hold this down, turn this to where you've got the handles where you want them, and then hold down on this, mark your holes, and then everything else is what you just saw me do. Now it's going to be exactly the same if you have a big router. Now this big router had handles on it. See, this housing had the handles on it already.
Right.
But a lot of times we sell these big ones, like for the 618, we sell the big one, and this will do exactly the same thing on the big one. And all you got to do is just sort of line it up from where the handles were. Just get it sort of lined up like that. Then do the same thing. Once you got it where you want it there, then all you got to do is take the paper off, mark it, and drill it. And exactly the same as for the smaller one. No difference at all. So that's all you need. You need a Sharpie, you need one of these centering jigs, you need a drill press. I wouldn't recommend doing it just with a drill because you have no way to make sure that these only go 110 to 120 thousandths depth. You need a drill press operation for that.
Now, based on the fact that they might be doing this with some other router, the screws might not be the same, so they need to drill depth. Correct me if I'm wrong. They need to, let's say it's a Milwaukee trim router, and their screws are maybe they're flatheads, they're pan heads, or they're different than these kind of screws. They need to drill a depth good enough for clearance for those screws.
Yeah, not only
might not be the same as this.
Not only that, but since these are in fact like a panhead screw, which is flat, you can get some routers that have 45 degree have a chamfer on them. So
Yeah.
in that case, instead of using a bit like this, you would use a center drill,
A countersink.
a countersink. I should have one here to show you.
But then the you know, it'll
Yeah,
be
then it'll be at an angle, and you'll have to get a piece of scrap. You can use a piece of scrap wood, and just be sure that the screw that goes in your router, when it goes down in there, that it clears the top.
right.
You just have to use a little common sense on that.
Gotcha.
I should have a countersink tool here to show you. And I meant to have one, I just don't have
I
one.
think everybody pretty much knows what a countersink is.
Yeah.
So this
yeah.
is considered a counter bore tool, right?
Yeah, this is counter bore because it's boring and it's got a flat bottom. But a countersink, this would be at an angle.
Right.
And all you got to do with the countersink is be sure you go down in there far enough that when you put the screw in, that the head
Yeah.
is clear on the top. So
yeah.
that's literally all there is to it. So
Okay.
so my voice hasn't healed up yet. It's still kind of scratchy, but hey,
Yeah.
I'm
You got through it.
yeah, I got through it. I'm pushing 86. I don't know how much longer my voice is going to last. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last, but as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep doing.
Good.
So that's my senior moment for today, and I'll shut this off and do a little cleanup here, and I'm probably gonna make these for somebody that wants them. They're fairly easy for me to make.
Meaning the jig.
Yeah,
jig?
the centering jig, and that's what it'll be. It's just a little centering jig, and it'll probably sell for somewhere around $10, maybe a little less, but probably around $10. And as long as you order it with some of our other stuff, it won't cost you for shipping. But if you order it by itself, it costs you almost that much to ship it. I think we have a flat rate of $8 for any order. $150, $200 order is still $8 shipping. So if you order this by itself, it's still going to be $8 shipping. But if you order with some layout letters or templates or something,
Or a blank base.
or a blank base, then there's no extra shipping on it. So that's it. That's the end of my senior moments for today. Thank you very much.